Welcome to South Africa. You're the new intern. My name is Enrique, and I'm the head of the personnel department here. It's great that someone has traveled so far to learn more about how to keep African wildlife. I sometimes get the feeling that all young guys think of nothing but soccer. We're only in the building phase, but my boss has some ambitious plans. Since his last visit to the US, he's been raving about the fabulous wildlife parks they have there. Come a little closer, and I'll tell you something. Tip, use the mouse wheel to zoom closer in. So between you and me, my boss is a real entrepreneur and seems to have gotten mixed up with some dubious investors. If you want my opinion, the only thing these guys care about is money. They don't give a damn about the animals. But on the other hand, we desperately need those investors here because in the past, the state has been pumping money into conserving the rich diversity of animal species. But now it looks like those funds are needed to maintain all the new soccer stadiums they've been building. But hey, enough of that. I want to show you something. Follow me. Tip, we're planning a big adventure park here where visitors from all over the world can see the most magnificent African animals right up close. It will be a unique experience for the whole family. We haven't introduced any big cats here yet, as they're more difficult to keep than grazing animals. Come on, I'll show you around. Tip, use the arrow keys or move the mouse to the edge of the screen. Take a look into this enclosure. You're a city dweller, eh? So maybe Bianca was only born a few weeks ago, but sadly her mother did not survive the birth. It is important you learn how to handle vulnerable animals, so that's why first we're going to attend to Bianca. Let's see how Bianca is getting on. Every time you select an animal, a list of the current well-being status and needs of that animal will appear on the bottom right of the screen. Like all hoofed animals, zebras are herd animals, so we want to integrate Bianca into our herd of zebras. Maybe we'll find a surrogate mother willing to suckle her. So please put Bianca in the zebra enclosure close by, next to the water trough if you can. Tip, select an animal and then click OK to move it to another spot. Well done! Take some time to have a look around our park. We have another enclosure with gazelles. Oh yeah, if you're through with the task or don't know what to do next, use the flashing button at the top here to find out more about the tasks you have open. Good! Here you can see an overview of all your outstanding tasks and your progress in each one. But right now, Sarah, the park's landscape architect, is waiting for you by the gazelle enclosure. Go and find her.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm supervising the development of the wildlife park. I'd love you to help me learn how to design enclosures to suit the needs of different species. Designing an enclosure is one of the most creative but demanding tasks in a wildlife park. It's really fun to actually build your own design concepts. But we must of course bear in mind the specific. First, I'd like to use the gazelle enclosure to show you the most important equipment in an animal enclosure is the feeding device. And there are different types of facilities for different food, sometimes also in different sizes and at different heights. Herbivores can also feed on the foliage in the enclosure, But for this, we would need to build really big enclosures that are difficult to manage. So let's look for some suitable feeding devices to place in the enclosure. You'll find these in the enclosure. That turned out really well. A keeper will now fill up the feeding device, and the gazelle can now enjoy a hearty meal. When you select one of the gazelles, you will also see that minerals are an important part of a balanced diet, too. So now try placing 2 salt licks in the enclosure. Again, you can now see the gazelles go to the salt licks to restore their mineral balance. To do this, select a gazelle and then the food section where you can use the bars to see how well their food requirement is currently being satisfied. Okay, so now that the gazelles have a healthy diet, we'll move on to their physical well-being. Many animals that have a coat need places where they can scratch and scrape. If you have a cat, then you'll know what I mean. Gazelles also have a beautiful coat that needs constant care, so you need to provide a place where they can have a good scratch. Now try to find a scratching device in the enclosure facilities section and install it in the gazelle enclosure. Again, make sure you select a suitable spot so the gazelles can get to it easily from all sides. Well done! The gazelle. We're in the process of planning an enclosure here that is big enough for a herd of up to 5 gnus. We have already finished a section of the enclosure fencing, and now I'd like you to finish it off for me. As before, you will find fences in enclosure construction. Tip: you should also place a gate in the enclosure fence so the staff can also enter at any time. Let's now see if the news can be delivered. To do this, go to the animal trading section on the top left. You're now in a sort of marketplace for animals where there's a constant stream of offers and propositions for wild animals from professional animal traders locally and even from all over the world. Wild animals, as we require them, should only be traded with the relevant permits. This is very look! Our new trader is now advertising his animals for sale. So we should act as quickly as possible. We'll just take 1 gnu at first. It's better if you learn how to handle a single animal before we establish the entire herd. So now select a gnu and go to Buy at the bottom right of the menu. Then great, it's done. It's always you can now select the gnu at any time and move it to another place. However, it should now remain within the new enclosure. Otherwise, I fear you'll incur the wrath. You've already learned how to build and equip an enclosure for a hoofed animal using the example of the gazelle enclosure. Now try to satisfy the gnu's needs too. Here's another tip. You could copy a great deal from the gazelle enclosure. Well done! The gnu is already settling into his new home. But as you know, it's a herd animal and will want to be surrounded by a sufficient number of its own kind. Now try to bring more gnus into the enclosure until the entire herd is happy and contented. I'm so proud of you. You've actually managed to make all the gnus happy. We're through here for the moment. I would now like to introduce you to our gardener, Nelson. He's standing by the jeep track in the gazelle enclosure and is just busying himself with some planting. You could maybe go help him out. Hey, Nelson! Gazelles are also incredibly shy animals, and that's why it's particularly difficult for the park visitors to drive too near them without scaring them off. So we're going to hide the jeep track behind a line of orange trees. Unfortunately, our orange trees have become rather shriveled in transit, and you can help Nelson revitalize them. So please select one of the orange trees along the jeep track. You may notice they also, to ensure our orange trees flourish and bear some beautiful fruit, we must now try to select a spot with just the right amount of ground hardness for the orange trees and use the mouse to place it along the row. If you select a tree and then select the Details button on the bottom right, you can find out which ground hardness is best suited to these trees. Excellent! This ground is perfect for orange trees, and we now want to place a line of orange trees along the Jeep track. You'll find the plants on the top left by the flashing button. You will also find orange trees under subtropical plants. Select the orange tree and then go to the Buy button in the bottom section of the menu and place a further 8 orange trees along the Jeep track. Remember, plants are... Hey, it's looking really good! The line of trees can now really flourish and blossom. Our gardener Nelson will see to it that the plants are always well watered and fertilized. Your internship is coming to an end. As an extra reward, you will receive a gold-plated African sculpture. You can display it in your own park if you want to have one at a later date. Tip: you will...
Congratulations! You have successfully completed your internship in South Africa.